Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out to my cooking demonstration here at the Hart Memorial Library. My name is Chef Warren, and I'm author of Table for Two, the cookbook for couples. It was one of the top 100 cookbooks in America. Over 235 recipes, all scaled down for 2 people, so there's a minimum of leftovers. You can get all the ingredients in a regular supermarket, like Publix, Winn-Dixie, Walmart. I don't have anything exotic or cute. It's all real food, nothing really processed, and you can pretty much make everything in under an hour, most under half an hour. In fact, I've got quite a few you can make in under 10 minutes. I'm going to demonstrate one of those for you here today. Like I said, all these recipes are scaled down for 2, but I wasn't always cooking for 2. Because at one time I had 5 kids at home, so on any given night I was cooking for at least 7, sometimes 8, 9, or 10, depending on who happened to be dropping by that night. And because I had a reputation as being a pretty good cook, I always had people dropping by. So back when I was cooking for that many people every single night of the week, I would do a lot of my grocery shopping at places like Sam's Club or Costco, or BJ's, and I'd go shopping once a month, and I'd buy the 50-pound bag of chicken breasts and the 40-pound bag of pork chops. They sell stuff there. 5-gallon drums of spaghetti sauce, toilet paper rolls, 165 rolls to a package. It takes 2 of you to carry it in the house. So I go shopping once a month, and I back the Jeep Cherokee up to the garage and get all the kids out there. They bring all those big bags into the kitchen, put them on the countertop. Then I get out my hefty Ziploc bags, and I break all those big bags down to servings of 7, and I'd label, chicken breast, chicken legs, steak, pork chops, corn, broccoli, and I put them out in my freezer in the garage. In fact, back then, since I was buying so much food just once a month, and Costco was like 20 miles away, I had 2 chest freezers out in the garage. I just kept stock, everything labeled, very organized. In fact, I was so organized, I think you'll enjoy this. I even had a big chalkboard above my freezers, right? Everything in the freezer listed. And as I used it up, I'd erase it, so next month, when I went way out to Costco, I knew exactly what I had to buy. Very organized, very proud of myself, as I'm sure you are too. But you know what? It didn't make any difference. Because when I come home from work and I go in the family room where all the kids are laid out, watching TV or doing homework, and I'd say, "So, what do y'all want for dinner tonight?" Not a single time did they ever mention anything I had out in those 2 freezers. I'm serious. I can say, "So, what do y'all want for dinner tonight?" And one of my kids would say, "Food." Well, I don't care. Make it quick, something good, I gotta go, whatever. And those kids know what I'm talking about. Well, I tell you what, after a couple of months of that nonsense, I had enough. So one Saturday, I had some time in my hands. I went out to the garage, I opened up both freezers, I took out every single bag, and then I ripped the labels off all of them. Yeah. Then I relabeled them with things like food, I don't care, make it quick, something good. That way when I came home from work and I'd go in the family room and I'd say, "So, what do y'all want for dinner tonight?" And when my kids would say, "I don't care," I'd go right out to the garage, open the freezer, pull out a big bag of "I don't care," and that's my made for me. Yeah, I got them. Of course, they'll all be sitting around the table, looking at what I made going, "Dad, what's this?" Of course, I'd say, "I don't care." This is what y'all want, is what you're getting tonight. Like I said, my kids are gone now. I find myself buying too much food, throwing too much food out, having way too many leftovers. Heck, my kids have been gone for a couple of years now. But I guarantee if you go up to my freezer today and open it up, in the bottom, you'll find leftovers from the Clinton administration. I just can't seem to get rid of it. I figure there's got to be other people out there like me, which I wrote the cookbooks, and they seem to be doing so well. But we're just not here to talk about cooking for 2. We're here to talk about plant-based cooking for 2. Now that's a word that's really coming up. It becomes very popular now. A lot of people are looking to eat a little bit healthier, so they're looking to do more plant-based cuisine. Now, traditionally, what was meant by plant-based, traditionally it didn't just mean plants only. It meant plant-based. So people who ate plant-based diets, and there's many cultures throughout the world that do. Not only on principle, but because that's what they have to eat. So they have maybe plants, fruits, grains, things like that. Would also supplement it with maybe some seafood and maybe some poultry now, but it was pretty much plant-based. But that's kind of changed over time to where you hear that word today, plant-based, it means plant only, or what we would call a vegan type diet, okay, where everything is plant-based. So there's no animal products. I'm just not talking about meat, I'm talking about cheese, milk, things like that, eggs. So that's the difference between a vegetarian and a vegan diet. A vegetarian would allow themselves to eat dairy products, cheese, butter, eggs, things like that. So that's kind of what plant-based means now. But what we find from studies is that it is a healthy diet. If you have a diet that's plant-based, whether it's traditional or it's the more structured one here today, the American Dietary Association, they recommend that a diet rich in fruits and vegetables and grains is actually healthier for us. And we don't need modern studies to do that. We can look at ancient cultures that have primarily been plant-based, in the Mediterranean we see that, in the Near and Far East, India. These cultures have healthier lifestyles, even though many of them don't have access to modern medicine because they're on a plant-based diet. So I think if we can kind of move there, I think our bodies will benefit from it, and there's some other benefits from it. However, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm not here on a crusade. I'm not here to turn you into a vegetarian. I'm certainly not here to turn you into a vegan. What I want you to do, what I want my audience to do, is start moving in that direction. Because like I said, it shows that it is a healthier diet and healthier lifestyle. And that's the difference. It's really not a diet, it's a lifestyle. I mean, there's all kinds of bad diets out there. The keto diet, paleo diet, going back to Atkins diet. These are things that you really have to think about in order to do them. Nice thing about a vegetarian diet or even a vegan diet, you don't have to think a lot about it. There's not a lot of, measuring and counting, and you just eat a lot of fruits and a lot of vegetables, a lot of nuts and a lot of grains. So that's the nice thing about it. It can be a lifestyle. So what I encourage people, if you're moving to more of a vegetarian, lifestyle or cuisine, to kind of set a goal of 60 to 75% of your food coming from grains, fruits, vegetables, things like that. That's kind of, if you're going to more of a vegan diet, you want to maybe shoot for 95 and eventually 100%. Where you're going that way. What I don't want you to do is go cold turkey. Like you read an article, or you saw a guy on television or a girl on television that just convinced you this is the way to go. So, doggone it, tomorrow, I'm done with it. I'm done with meat. I'm done with, I'm going plant-based. I don't want you to try it. You'll be discouraged very, very quickly. Okay, so what I encourage my audience is take baby steps. So we're going to talk a little bit later on about how to make those baby steps to where you can work yourself into that diet and it won't be a struggle. You won't have to think about it a lot, okay? So that's the difference about this. I'm not going to share a bunch of recipes with you here today. In fact, I'm just going to actually make one, but what I want to do is encourage practical ways that you can move into a plant-based diet with things you already have in your kitchen. I'll have you go out and buy, all kinds of new stuff, so that you can start to work your way into it, and as you grow into it, you expand it, and expand it more, and pretty soon, in a couple of months or a year from now, you're at the 75, 95%, and you didn't even notice it. So that's kind of what we're going here. I am going to send you recipes, okay? We're just not going to go with a bunch of recipes. In fact, what I'm going to do tonight is so simple, it's going to blow your mind, but it's absolutely delicious. It only takes under 10 minutes to make. So we're just going to move that way. The other thing I want you to be careful of is seeing what you see on television or reading in magazines or hearing on radio or podcasts. There's a lot of misinformation out there, primarily being peddled by celebrities, by doctors who aren't really doctors. If they're doctors, they're certainly not nutritionists or food scientists. There's a lot of information out there because that kind of stuff sells. If they can create some kind of controversy and get people tuning in week after week after week, that's how they make their money. So you want to be sure as you move into this, you do more research, you buy books or you watch programs that are science-based, that is being written by a food scientist or a nutritionist, and not the latest athlete, not the latest celebrity. Because like I said, there's a lot of information out there that's wrong. And so I just want to be careful of that. And in fact, because there's a difference between what's true and what's the truth. Here's what I mean by that. I love to drink these sparkling waters. This is my favorite beverage. This happens to be this high. So orange grapefruit. I really like the sparkling water. It's healthy for me. Until I read an article that said the primary ingredient in my can of sparkling water is also the primary ingredient in the big jug of insecticide I have out in the garage. That's a true statement. But it's not the truth. Because what is the primary ingredient in sparkling water? What's the primary ingredient in that big jug of insecticide? Water, with like 0.099% of the active ingredient. So I'm telling you something that's true, that the primary ingredient in my sparkling water is also the primary ingredient in my insecticide, or picked up a lot of different things in my garage. I'm telling you something that's true, but it's not really the truth. So we have to be real careful, but that stuff sells. I mean, my greatest food advice I ever got was from Michael Pollan, the food writer. You know, he said, here's how you eat healthy. You know, eat real food, mostly plants, not too much. That's sane advice to me. That's how a lot of the world eats. You know, eat real food, stay away from processed, mostly plants, you know, and not too much. Add to that for a healthy lifestyle, eat with someone. Don't eat by yourself in front of the TV, or everybody's kind of separated, and then maybe walk 2 miles every day. That's Chef Warren's 5. Now, if I'm on TV, what's going to gather more viewers when I get up and make statements like, you know, that sparkling water you drink, that's the same stuff's an insecticide. Or if I go on TV, I'm on Oprah and say, well, Chef Warren, what's your advice for us today? Eat real food, mostly plants, not too much. Eat with friends and family, and take a walk every day. Oh, thank you, Chef Warren. That's wonderful advice. I show up on the show the next day. Well, Chef Warren, what advice do you have for us today? Eat real food, mostly plants. So in other words, that gets real boring. So a lot of these people have to get on and continue to throw stuff out there that they want people to watch, but it's not always the best advice. So I just want you to be cautious about that. Also, just because it's vegetarian or vegan doesn't mean it's healthy. So, jelly bellies, vegan. Twizzlers, you know, licorice sticks, vegan. So I could say, I'm going on a vegan diet tomorrow. So I'm going down to Sam's and I'm going to 3-pound bag of jelly bellies, and I'm going to have a big bowl of that tonight, because I'm going vegan. You know, so just because it's vegan, so you, like I said, real food, you know, and mostly plants, that's what we're going for. So, like I said, most of the people are eating a plant-based diet throughout the world. We've got, like the Blue Zone study shows that these cultures are healthy cultures. So that's kind of where we want to go. There are the benefits for it, okay? Why add more, you know, vegetarian meals to your diet? So we're going to start to add them and then build on it. Like I said, we know it's good for our bodies. I mean, we've had studies, numerous studies show that, but also we have centuries of cultures that have shown us that. It's also good for the earth, because it takes a lot less resources to grow, an acre of beans and maybe some other animal products. And it can be good for your wallet, okay? You can actually eat cheaper if you move to more of a plant-based diet. It can, but there's ways that it can. I'm going to talk about that. So that's 3 good reasons why. I can't find any fault with that. You know, I want to be healthier. You know, I want to make sure I'm eating sustainably, and you know, I won't save money. At the end of the day, I want more money in my wallet. So that's some great reasons to add vegetarian meals to our diet. Here's the reality of moving that way. If you're going into a plant-based diet, vegetarian diet, and especially a vegan diet, you are just going to have to give some things up. Okay, things like bacon, steak, you know, hot wings. You know, that's gone. That's, you know, so you have to understand. And I know there's people out there trying to replicate those things, and I've tried numerous recipes. I've got a cookbook coming out this fall, Table for Two Vegetarian. And one of the things I wanted to be honest about in my cookbook, I don't want to tell anybody that this particular item tastes just like this, if it doesn't. So I'm going to say, this tastes just like bacon, or this tastes just like ribs, or this tastes just like hot wings. If it doesn't, I'm not going to say it does, because I've tried dozens of them. Just not me, but I host people over my house, in my neighborhood. I put the word out. Taste testing at Chef Warren's. People sign up. There's a waiting list. I might have 5 couples come over, 10 people, and I'll set out 3 different items for them, and just have I'll set out a real hamburger, I'll set out a vegetarian hamburger, a vegan hamburger that I make, you know. I did the same thing with chicken, I did the same thing with ribs. I said, I have no dog in the fight, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. I want your honest opinion, okay? And I didn't label it, okay? And they all kind of looked the same. And that's how we went through it. Some of the things tasted closer than others, but a lot of them didn't. So, you know, I want us to be careful, you know, that they're trying, but I haven't seen anything like that. So you're just gonna have to give some of that up. You'll need to ensure you're getting enough protein, vitamins, and minerals in your diet if you're going that way. So that's why, you know, I would go to a reputable source, you know, that's a dietitian, you know, someone that can actually, whether it's a book, or even your doctor, or you have to go see, you know, a registered dietitian or someone like that, food science, that can actually tell you, well, if you're giving up this protein here and this animal protein, you're gonna have to make it up here, here, and here. So that's where this is gonna happen. But once you get into it, you know, well, I'm having this much beans, I'm having, you know, this much, you know, of this type grain, you know, that I get my amino acids from, that's fine. It's just gonna take a little bit of time to acclimate to that. And particularly if you go into trying to make your own fake meats, you know, like your own fake chicken, your own fake beef, things like that, that will be time consuming and expensive. Particularly if you buy it already made. So you can go down and buy, you know, Impossible burgers, you know, bacon, sausage, things like that. It's gonna cost you a lot more money than the real thing. So generally a plant-based diet will save you money unless you want to try to replicate all the food you love that you can't eat anymore. Then you're going to watch your food budget go up, because some of those things are 3 to 4 times more expensive than what they're replacing, and a lot of them just don't taste exactly the same. I know when the Impossible Burger came out, you know, Beyond Meat Impossible Whopper, Burger King had it. So I said, well, it's new, I gotta try it out. So I went down and I ordered one of the Impossible Whoppers and, you know, Beyond Whoppers. And I sat down and ate it. And I was telling some friends about it. They said, well, what do you think? Did it taste like a hamburger? I said, no, it did not. They said, really? What did it taste like? I said, it tasted like a Whopper. And a Whopper doesn't taste like a hamburger to me. I mean, if you think about it, you get a little thin piece of meat with all the sauce and everything. It's not like the hamburgers my son makes out in Pumpkin, California. You know, part of that. That's a hamburger. So you're gonna have to give up some things and just be careful. But the nice thing about moving this way, you don't have to go out and buy all this specialty stuff. You can start to cook a plant-based diet with items you already have in your kitchen. So this is some of my recommendations of how to move in that direction. That's not going to stress you out, and you can take baby steps. Like I said, maybe you want to start out slow, so you're not just going to give up chicken, beef, pork. What we're going to do, what I recommend my audience do, my friends do when they're going in this direction, instead of having a 12-ounce ribeye steak for dinner, you cut it down to a 10 or 8-ounce ribeye steak, and you fill the rest up with other sides, healthier sides. Then you go down to a 6-ounce steak, and then you go down to a 4-ounce steak, then a 3-ounce steak. And in the meantime, you're just not taking something away, we're adding to it with other healthy, delicious things, to where now almost your meat is almost like a little side dish or a flavoring than it is the main portion. And then you get to the point where you're really appreciating all those other side dishes. They're really, really good. Then eventually when you make it and you don't have any meat or pork in it, it tastes just fine. So I recommend just don't go cold turkey. Most of us can't do it. Just take it one step at a time to where it really becomes part of your lifestyle. So it's baby steps are real important. We're going to talk a little about meat substitutes. Some of them are out there. I'm going to use one of them here today. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Same thing with cow's milk. If you're going vegan, just instead of having a big glass of milk, have a half a glass of milk. Then maybe go out and get your soy, you know, or your almond milk and mix it half and half, a third, 2/3, to where your body, you know, your body and taste buds get acclimated to it. So you're just not going. Because a lot of people can't make the adjustment. Okay, milk's going down the drain, I'm just going to drink this. And the first time they have it, I mean, talking a glass of it, not putting a little bit in their coffee, it can be a change for a lot of people. That's why I recommend just mixing it and going down to where you have it, if that's the direction that you want to go. And as you cut back, substitute with something that's healthy. And one of the nice things that you'll see in my cookbook, because when I first started cooking back in the late 70s, you know, vegetarianism wasn't a big thing. It was kind of a fringe thing. It kind of, a lot of my hippie friends in college, they were kind of going that way. And I have some vegetarian cookbooks from back in that day, and a lot of it was just simply beans and rice, rice and beans, beans and rice and tofu, tofu and beans. There just wasn't a lot of creativity. It was healthy, but there was just nothing to it, you know. But fortunately, we've discovered all these other worldwide cultures that have these wonderful plant-based dishes that actually taste great. They just taste great, and they're filling, because that's, like I said, some of them, you know, are vegetarian or vegan for religious purposes, you know, maybe some people in India, but a lot of the cultures are that way because they just can't afford to raise cows and pigs and things like that. So this is kind of generationally what they had. So they used what they had and they made it taste good, so that people aren't sitting there going, oh man, beans and rice again. It's like, you know, oh yeah, this is, you know, we're having spotted rooster. This is great. You know, it's beans and rice, and, you know, from Central America, Guatemala is our national dish. It tastes absolutely wonderful, but that's what we have to go to. So you're just not taking something where you're adding to it. So by cutting back slowly is one way to do it. The other thing, keep your favorite fruits and vegetables, you know, on hand. So a really easy way to do that: buy some fruit when it's on sale and keep it in a bowl on the counter. Out of sight, out of mind. You know, when it's out there, it's really easy to walk by it and pick up a nectarine or pick up an apple. That seems like such a simple thing, but a lot of people, if they get fruit, it gets in the refrigerator, they're not used to eating a lot of it, it kind of moves to the back behind the milk and the Gatorade, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, I want a piece of fruit, and they look back there and it's shot. So I try to keep it out there, buy what you think you can eat in a couple days, and then just keep it out there so it's really easy for you to go ahead and just grab a handful. The same thing with things in my refrigerator. I've always got blueberries in my refrigerator because I can get them really cheap at a grocery store, at a market near me, at Detweiler's, and so I pick them up, and I just got a pint or half, you know, pint or two up there, and I put it in everything. I buy yogurt, I just throw it in there. Open the refrigerator, grab a handful of it, pop it in my mouth. Same with my strawberries, grapes. My kids grew up on all these things. We call it God's candy, or blueberries, or strawberries, grapes. It was always in there. I didn't have them make them work for it. It was in a big bowl. At the lower shelf, they could just open it, grab them, and put them in. For the summertime, I put the grapes in the freezer. We freeze our grapes, so they have frozen grapes. When they got older, the little tiny kids, but they could have frozen grapes. That's a great way to, when you buy some grapes and they're starting to go, rather than keep them out another 2 or 3 days and then now they're mushy, just put them in the freezer and you got frozen grapes, you know, and just, they're very, very nice and refreshing. So keep it out, keep it available. That makes a big difference. Substitute extra virgin olive oil for butter, okay? That's another healthy way to kind of move into a plant-based. If you get a decent extra virgin olive oil, you can go down to the specialty stores and pay a lot of money for it, but just starting out, I would recommend, you know, either Bertolli here, supermarket brand, or California Olive Ranch. It's another good supermarket brand. I buy them when they're buy one, get one, and I don't buy the big jugs of it anymore because I don't want to go rancid, and I just use this in place of a lot of butter. Instead of when I'm serving vegetables, whether it's corn, green beans, broccoli, instead of just reaching for my butter and putting a big pat of butter on my vegetables when I'm cooking them, I just drizzle them with some extra virgin olive oil. That can impart a very nice buttery taste to it. For bread, the same way. You know, I just, instead of lathering butter on my bread, I just might pour a little bit of extra virgin olive oil in a shallow plate or dish with maybe a little garlic and maybe seasoning my choice, thyme, Italian seasoning, just kind of sprinkle that in there and break off my bread and go in and dip it that way. And that way I'm getting a healthy fat and I'm not giving up the flavor. So just substituting that is a nice thing. So we've always got a little thing of olive oil on the table. People would just go ahead and shake it wherever they would normally use butter that way. Stock up on whole grains. I mean, rice, absolutely, but there's a lot of grains out there that are available. And if you're going into a vegetarian or vegan diet, you're going to need to get some of the ancient grains because some of them have, you know, that's their quinoa is one that has all 7 amino acids, you know, that we normally get from animal products is in that. It cooks up just like rice, so you can use quinoa, amaranth, you know, farro. There's a lot out there, so it's not the same old, same old. I recommend brown rice over white rice. It's a little bit healthier. Unfortunately, it takes almost an hour to make, so it's not one of those quick things. So if time is of the essence, I cheat and so can you. Okay, I don't make everything from scratch. So I've got a box of instant brown rice, you know, minute rice in my cupboard. That I can make brown rice in under 10 minutes, like 5 minutes with boiling water. Not boiling the bag stuff, it's just brown rice. It's more expensive, absolutely, but if time is of the essence, this way I'm getting a healthier rice and I'm not having to wait an hour to go ahead and make it. So I use that to cheat. I don't recommend getting the white instant rice because white rice takes so quick to cook anyway. You can make it in 15 to 18 minutes. Doesn't make sense to go ahead and get the white rice in a box where the flavor is just not there. At least with the brown rice, you're getting the flavor. So make sure you've got that on hand, easily accessible, some whole grains. Use whatever vegetables you have and don't throw any of it out. So I buy vegetables, whether it's frozen, I do buy frozen vegetables. I get them when they're buy one, get one, fresh vegetables. When I'm done, or I've got, you know, a half a zucchini left, or half a cup of corn, or what, none of that goes in, nothing goes down my regurgitator or in my trash can, none of that. I just keep it in the refrigerator, and when I have enough of it, you know, in a couple days, I will go ahead and make a vegetarian stew or a vegetarian soup. When my kids were growing up, we had what was known as refrigerator soup. That's what we called it. Other families called it other things. We called it refrigerator soup. And essentially what that was, in our family, with the leftovers, I'd put them in like Tupperware containers and put them in the refrigerator. And we had a rule in our family: if you finish it, you wash it. Okay, so you go and you finish up that thing with spaghetti, you wash it, or you just that macaroni and cheese, or those people, whatever, you wash it. Well, my kids caught on real quick, so at the end of the week, I'd open the refrigerator and I'd see all these Tupperware containers in there with like this much food in the bottom of it, okay? And I'd gather them all my kids and say, kids, what are you doing? And my older say, well, Dad, you said we have to wash it, you know, you have to wash it, we didn't finish it, and we didn't finish it. So I had all this stuff, not enough for even one serving, let alone 2 servings. So what I would do is, if we're doing vegetarian, I would just whip up a couple cups of vegetarian broth, and just take all those containers and dump them and make refrigerator soup. Other people call it dump soup. They call it kitchen sink soup. And some of the best soups I ever made came out of that refrigerator like that. I even made it for company. Not intentionally, it's just some people come over and they forget to go home. You know, it's dinner time and all of a sudden I gotta feed these people. So I would go in there and pour them a glass of wine. They go in there, look in the refrigerator and say, so it's mashed potatoes go in there, pasta's going in there, leftover vegetables go in there, beans are going in there. I'm gonna open a can of tomatoes, throw it in there, and just kind of stir it up. And many times they come to the table and say, man, that's some of the best minestrone I've ever eaten. You got a recipe for that? I said, yeah, I'll show you. Bring them in the kitchen, show them all those empty containers. And I said, there's your recipe right there. That's everything that was in the refrigerator into that soup there. So don't throw any of it out. Go ahead and use it up. You'd be surprised at how many great meals you can make. Again, a lot of the international meals that we're enjoying and even enjoy today, even 3, 4, and 5-star restaurants, they're saying this is a traditional Guatemalan recipe or this traditional Vietnamese recipe, and they're charging a lot of money for it. A lot of these recipes were made because that's what people had left over, and so we're going to throw anything out. So we're going to repurpose it and make something out of it, and now they become like haute cuisine in our culture, even though people were like, and you know, if they had seen what we're paying for, you know, they'd be snickering. I wish I'd make some money on that, because that's what we were going to throw out, that we turned to something out. So beans and rice for breakfast. We're just going to add a different sauce on it. You know, that's new for us, but that in a lot of cultures that was the norm. So save the vegetables, go ahead and eat them. You know, try to work in a half a cup of beans a day. Doesn't have to be at dinner, but maybe lunch, breakfast. We eat a lot of beans at breakfast because I've discovered a lot of wonderful meals that you can. Yeah, we still have the Cheerios. We still have that, you know. But to kind of mix things up, we have some of these traditional healthy bean-based breakfast dishes that we make. So easy way to go ahead and do that. And the other thing is, try to eat foods that look like what they're supposed to be. Okay, because that's what we're talking about, eat real food. Because you can go out and buy something that's carrot base, or a great source of vitamin C, you know, and it's got an orange picture on the package, a picture of an orange, but you open the package, there's no orange in there. Try to eat food that looks like it's supposed to be. If it says it's supposed to be fruit, it should look like fruit. If it says it should look like cereal, it should look like cereal. So that's, because like I said, there's a lot out there, and they're trying to play with us, which is a shame, you know. So just make sure that the food you're eating looks like what it's supposed to be. I mentioned that the fruit, I always have nuts sitting out. And I swap them up, so we're not eating almonds all the time. I eat almonds one time, pecans, walnuts, just have them on the counter. It's really, if I want, I'm on a salt binge, I just have a need for just a little bit of salt, and I just reach in there and grab it. Like I said, out of sight, out of mind. If I keep it up in the cupboard, no one sees it, it's gonna go rancid, you know, eventually. If you buy the big bags up, which I do, I keep it in the freezer, and that way it keeps it a bit longer, and I get it out, fill up my bowl, you know, occasionally when I need it. Comes out much better that way. Now let's talk about meat substitutes, because they're out there. I try not to buy anything prepackaged, like the sausages, the hamburgers, things like that. It's just too expensive for me. But I think if you're going to start trying some of the meat substitutes, the easiest and best one that you can use that actually tastes just like what it's supposed to, you know, what it's supposed to be, what it substitutes for, is textured vegetable protein, or TVP. Now you can buy this in bags. A lot of Publixes carry it, a brand called Bob's Mill. I use it a lot, and I've been using it for decades because it's a lot cheaper. It takes the place of ground beef. So if I want ground beef in a chili, in a pasta sauce, you know, in any kind of dish that calls for ground beef, you can get the textured vegetable protein. Essentially what that is these little granules that look like dried up hamburger. Now this is made from soy. All this is soy. This is essentially what's left over after they take all the liquid out of the soy to make soy oil and soy milk. And they extrude it and they make these dried crumbles. They have no flavor to it, so you have to reconstitute it. But I like it because once you reconstitute and cook with it, you can't tell the difference between this and regular ground beef. I started using it even before we were moving into a plant-based diet because this is a lot cheaper than ground beef. Generally, you use about a cup of this equals about a pound of ground beef. Okay, a pound of ground beef where I shop is $3.50 a pound. This comes out to about 80 cents a pound. You know, when you use it. So. This is what I recommend is what we're going to do here. It's really shelf stable, so once you get it, keep it in an airtight package, and every time, you know, you've got a call for ground beef, you just mix this with some hot vegetable broth or hot vegan beef broth, and let it sit for 5 minutes till it reconstitutes itself, and then go ahead and use it just like regular ground beef. I can make good hamburgers out of this. That was one of my taste tests. It doesn't taste like my son's, you know, 1-inch thick, but compared to like a regular backyard burger, actually it came out very nice. So this is the easiest way to go replace some meat with something that's absolutely plant-based, and you're not giving anything up. Like I said, you have to reconstitute it. 2 ways you can do that. Like I said, you just can't use plain water, you have to use something, because there is no flavor to it. I like to use what's known as a soup base for all of my soups and stews. Anytime I need a broth, I like to use what's known as a soup base rather than a bouillon cube. Because what's the first ingredient of bouillon cube?
Salt.
Yeah, pretty much what's the only ingredient of bouillon cube is salt. It's like a whole day's worth in 1 cube for some of my age. So I use what's known as a soup base, and this is what we use in commercial kitchens. Okay, we don't make our soup bases or stock from scratch anymore. It's not labor intensive. It's not cost efficient. This is a paste. Use 1 teaspoon per cup of water. So it's kind of like a bouillon cube. Instead of a bouillon cube, it's 1 teaspoon. The reason why I like this, because when you look at the ingredient list, this one happens to be roasted vegetable broth. I look at the first ingredient, and the first ingredient is not salt. Guess what the first ingredient is? Vegetables. So this has about 1/2 to 2/3 less salt in it than a bouillon cube, and it tastes so much better. Now this is what I used to use up until about a year ago for pretty much all the things, and I had to add to it to make it taste more like beef or to taste more like chicken. Thankfully, this company which is called Better Than Bullion, and you can find this at Walmart, Target, Publix, where they sell the Bullion cubes. It runs about $3.99 at Walmart. I think it's $4.99 at Publix, so it's not expensive, but it makes 9.5 quarts. So this is even cheaper than buying broth in a box. Okay, so it makes 9.5 quarts, $3.99, and once you open it, this will last in your refrigerator 18 months to 2 years. So you'll find yourself using a lot of it. So this is what I use pretty much anytime to flavor my TVP, up until about a year ago when this company here came out with vegan no beef broth, okay, which tastes like beef broth, but it's vegetarian, and they did the same thing with chicken. So now I do, it's just a teaspoon that I can go ahead and reconstitute it, or if I make another kind of a beef, I want a vegetable beef soup, and I don't want to use beef, I can go ahead and use my beef broth. So I recommend that. Anything I recommend, folks, I don't make any money from these people. If it's good, I'll recommend it to you. If it's not good, I'll tell you about it too. I have no dog in the fight. My agent says I could make more money if I became a spokesperson. I'd rather tell you, I like it, I bought it, I tried it, my friends tried it, I checked with Cooks Illustrated, Consumer Reports, see if they liked it. If there's a consensus, I'll recommend it. So right now, this is probably the best you can do as far as making any, my refrigerator soup, this is what I use. I make 4-6 cups of this and dump everything in there and I'm good to go. So we're gonna go ahead and reconstitute our TVP here. I'm just gonna heat up. I already measured this out. About a cup. So that's the easiest way to go. Another way, people that do, they buy tofu. Tofu is an acquired taste. Unless you know someone that can really make it well, then it can actually taste like chicken breast or chicken nuggets, things like that. You have to press it. So you have to add time, either press it, get all that liquid out of it. That way, whenever you soak it in, it's going to absorb all those flavors. So if I want my tofu to really taste like chicken, I've got to press all that liquid out of it, and there's a lot of liquid in there. That could take 30 minutes up to an hour to press it, and then I soak it in my vegan chicken broth, kind of make it taste like chicken. It's inexpensive. You get a pound for about $1.20 at Walmart. Another meat substitute is something called seitan. That's S-E-I-T-A-N, not S-A-T-A-N. And that's vital wheat food. It's not grain from grain. You mix with some chickpea flour, and you create kind of a loaf out of it. And when you create your loaf or your liquid, you might add beef or chicken to it to make it taste like that. And you either simmer it or steam it to cook it. That does have the texture of chicken breast, small cut up meat, and maybe pork chops. But again, that's going to be an afternoon of your time. If I'm doing that, I try to make a couple of them. And then I round them up, put them in the freezer, and I slice it as I need it. You can buy it pre-made, but it's not cheap. So that's something you can make, one way to get around it. Another one that's interesting, if you like sloppy joes or pulled pork sandwiches, things like that, a really good substitute for that is green jackfruit. This is actually a fruit. They're actually about this big, but I buy it in the cans. I don't know what I'm going to do with something this big. You buy it in brine and you rinse it out and just cook this with your barbecue sauce or with your sloppy joe sauce. It tastes just like it, and it's a fruit, so you could really get it something. And this runs about $1 for about 20 ounces. If you get it at your local Oriental store, if you get it at the grocery store, it's going to be more expensive. But these are just some substitutes that actually work. Like I said, if you're going to start, the best one to use is the TVP, or textured vegetable protein. Oftentimes, a place like Whole Foods will have this in like a big bin. You just scoop out what you need. A lot cheaper that way. Or if you have, kind of a natural food store near you, or like I said, you can get it Bob's Red Mill at Publix. It's going to be more expensive that way. It's still cheaper than beef. Or you can buy it online. I use it a lot. It's like I said, it's got more protein than beef, and it really doesn't have any of the drawbacks. So we're just going to let this sit for a minute. But even as it sits here, I'll just show you real quick. I mean, it looks like ground beef. And and when you cook it, it tastes like ground beef. So, like I said, you can mix them with a binder and make hamburgers out of it, and make great hamburgers. You don't cook them on the grill, you put them in the oven, you cook them that way. Huh? You can make meatloaf out of it, absolutely. And it comes out really good. And it depends if you're vegan or vegetarian. I'm more vegetarian than vegan, so I'll use eggs, binder, things like that. I make great meatloaf out of it, so it really does. And like I said, this is one of the few things that actually tastes like, you know, we say it's going to taste. So we're going to go and use this in addition. We're going to make a weeknight vegetarian chili, which in our version here will take about 10 minutes to make, so it's not labor intensive. Essentially what we're going to do, I'm kind of doubling it here, so we want to make sure everybody gets a dish. Is you start off with half a cup of our textured vegetable protein and half a cup of either our vegetable broth or vegan beef broth. Let it reconstitute itself. So half a cup of each, half a cup of the TVP, half a cup of the vegetable or vegan beef broth. We add 2 tablespoons of olive oil or canola oil to our pan. And if I'm cooking at home, I would go ahead and dice up a small onion and go ahead and add that and saute it until it turns a little bit soft and translucent. That'll take about 6 or 7 minutes. And then add a clove of garlic to it and saute that for a minute. So I'll have maybe 8 minutes in that. I'm not going to take the time to do that here with you. We want to streamline it. So I'm going to cheat here, and I'm going to use, instead of an onion, I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of onion powder. And instead of garlic, I'm going to use 1/8 or 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. That's what we're going to use here. That's just to expedite things. So if you're pushed for time, cheat. I do. If I have a little bit more time, I've got an extra 8-10 minutes, I'll go ahead and do my onion and do my garlic. So we've got our onion and garlic, 1 tablespoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of cumin powder, 1 can of chopped tomatoes. I like to use the fire roasted. 2 cans of red beans, black beans, pinto beans, of choice. If you want, you can rinse them, drain them, remove some of the salt of them. I drain them. I don't have a place to rinse them here. And then I'm going to throw in a cup of corn, because I can. And so I want it a little bit healthier, but it really kind of adds a nice touch to it. And that's it, salt and pepper to taste. So we're only looking at a handful of ingredients. So that's what we're going to do. Like I said, but I'm kind of doubling this. I wanted you to see how few ingredients it has and how quickly it comes together. So the first thing we're going to do, we're just going to go ahead and add about 2 tablespoons of oil to our pan. And this is a little trick here. We're going to add our spices. We're going to add our cumin and our chili spice to the oil and just cook it really briefly for a second. This is what's known as blooming spices. What this does, it brings out more flavor out of the spice and also takes away the harshness of the spice. So anytime you have a recipe that calls for any kind of spice, whether it's cumin, nutmeg, anything like that, not herbs, we're talking about spices, just heat them in a little bit of oil. They'll come out tasting a lot better that way. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to add our spices. Go ahead and bloom them. Stir them around a little bit. You don't want to burn it, so it won't take long. But this is just a nice little trick to get a little more flavor out of your dried spices. So I've got my cumin, my chili powder, my onion powder, and my garlic. Now here comes the really hard part. We're going to add a can of tomatoes, 2 cans of beans, like I said, we're doubling this, so I'm just going to add 2 more of the same, 2 more beans. Tomatoes. Don't be afraid to cheat. Okay, there was a time when I had all those kids at home, on Sunday afternoon, I make a big pot of beans. You know, I make red, I make white. When I finish them, I put them in big Ziploc bags, lay them flat, put them out in my freezer. You know, so I always had fresh beans to go. But now it's just my wife and I don't have the storage space anymore. I don't have to store all those different beans. So I buy them canned. You can too. I'm gonna go ahead and add my cup of corn, frozen, absolutely fine. And then our TV cake. Let's go ahead and stir this up till it's heated through. You can taste it for salt and pepper. I'm not adding salt to it because there was salt in the beans, and I'm trying to cut back on my salt anyway. So I generally just put some kosher salt in a sugar bowl on the table with a small spoon, and I taste for salt as I go. So here we have a Weeknight vegetarian or vegan chili that you can have on the table in under 10 minutes that tastes like you've been serving it all afternoon on the stove. And you can also serve this with cheese if you're vegetarian. Sprinkle some cheddar cheese on it before as you serve it, or you can get the vegetarian cheese. I'm not a big fan of that, but if you're vegetarian, you can do that. Or cilantro is really nice on this. I used to sprinkle it with cilantro, but too many of my shows people didn't care for cilantro, and so there's a lot of people that missed out on the taste test because some people have an enzyme in their mouth when cilantro interacts, and it kind of makes it taste like soap. So I can't eat some. So I took that out of make so more people would be able to go ahead and enjoy it. Well, does anybody have any questions?
Could you mix different beans, black and white?
Oh yeah, I do that all the time.
If you mix different.
Whatever I have out there in the cupboard, it might be black beans and red beans one night, pinto beans and red, yeah, whatever. In fact, I kind of like that because we eat our eyes first, so the more variety you have in there, people, this is kind of nice. So yeah, absolutely do it. Other ways you can, if I don't have corn, I've got some frozen diced up carrot that goes in there. If I've got some peas left over, a lot of times I use my leftover vegetables. I've got a little bit of this left over. It goes in my soups, stews, chilies. Yeah, no one knows it. The other thing I like to add to kind of spice up dishes, I use fruit in a lot of dishes, so leftover fruit. So oftentimes, if I've got one leftover banana, that's really, I would go ahead and dice that up at the very last minute, just before I serve it. I'll go ahead and throw that banana in there and stir it up. I do that with mandarin oranges. If I don't have fresh, I open a can, drain it, I put some mandarin oranges in a lot of my stews like this. It doesn't taste bad, it just tastes a little different. And for a lot of people, for like a chili, having a little bit of bits of orange in there, really tastes pretty good. Same thing with strawberries. Scoop the last minute so that, they kind of stay, intact. And it's a nice way to add more fruit to your diet by just adding it to your soups and stews. Now, before you go, I want to send you some recipes, including this one. I'll send you 4 or 5 vegetarian or vegan recipes that you can make quickly like this. Just put your email address down over here at the table, and I'll go ahead and send that tonight. For those of you at home, you want this recipe as well as other recipes, shoot me an email. Here's my email address. It's Warren, W-A-R-R-E-N, at Chef Warren Caterson, CATERSON.com. That's Warren at ChefWarrenCaterson.com. Shoot me an email to say, send me the recipes, and I'll go ahead and get those out to you. I don't share these email addresses with anybody, so you're not going to get a lot of spam from people you don't know. And this way, the next time I'm in your area, I'll send you email saying I'm going to be at the Hart Memorial Library, one of the other libraries here in Osceola County, so you'll be able to come and see. So I've got about up to 50 different shows now, so you can see the same one twice. So. And since we're calling it a night, I do want to let you hear, and those of you here at home, that today's secret code word is spice. He was going to try to get chef, but I kind of like spice better. I'm always kind of a spicy guy. I'm more spicy than I'm chefy. So anyway, there's your secret code word. Make sure you get that. And if you'd like to get one of my cookbooks, my vegetarian one's not out yet. It'll be out here in the fall. I've got my other cookbooks, Table for Two, the cookbook for couples, Table for Two, Back for Seconds, and cooking outside the lines. I do have them available here. They're $20 even, that includes tax. That's about what you pay at Barnes & Noble or Target, plus I can sign it for you. And I take all major credit cards, cash, checks. You have a cute niece, my son's looking. Talk after himself. And then when we get ready to put out the vegetarian cookbook, either email, because we're going to offer everybody on an email list a special deal. It's going to come with a DVD that will actually have cooking techniques and show you exactly what I'm doing. So it'll be an added bonus for those of you who purchase it in advance. Any questions? I want to thank you all for coming. I know we're just getting back into this thing. At one time I was doing 235 shows a year from Florida to Boston, Detroit. Last March that stopped. So it's kind of nice to start to slowly pick back up. Because it's what I like writing cookbooks, but I really enjoy being with people like you. So thank you for taking the time to come out. Hope it was worth your while. Let you dish some of this out. Bon appetit. John, if you want to save a couple things for other people, you know, here in the library, have for dinner tonight, that'll be just fine. I've got spoons and napkins over there. And hopefully this information will encourage you maybe to, if not become a vegetarian or vegan, at least make vegetables more part of vegetables and grains, more a part of your diet. Wait a second. Hold up. I remember what I did was I only did the half of this pole, so I was going to measure the rest of it out. So.
What spice is that?
What's that?
What's that you just had?
This is the chili powder and the cumin. Because what I had in the bowl that I dumped in here earlier was just for the one. It wasn't double. So I'm adding this now to the put this in and stir it up. It wasn't quite as fragrant as I was stirring it. I was like, then I remembered I needed to add this. I'm gonna put this back in. Let's heat this through. Would you like a bowl? John, would you like a bowl?
Yes, please, thank you.
Teeny, teeny, tiny one, just a little bit.
Pardon me?
A little small one, just.
Oh, okay.
A little small. Thank you.
Bon appetit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Some spoons of